6:16, I'm calling over a meeting of the advisory committee on Tuesday, January 28th. We have the fire and ambulance department on our agenda, as well as the board of health and the building inspector. So we're going to start with Chief Leganga. We've booked fire and ambulance for an hour, and what I was thinking is we could try to have like a 30-minute discussion of the operating budgets and then maybe a 30-minute overview of the ALS proposal.
Okay.
So, come on up. You can bring Chloe too. If you
No,
want.
she's good back there. She's out of the way.
Yeah, she's with us.
Whoa.
Right.
You got to sit with me.
No.
And then just so that you know, this is the copy of the budget that we have combined ALS, EMS and
Is there one more?
fire. Okay.
Is this different from the one in the?
No,
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
6827117, I have, one thing different, yeah.
And
The bottom line is the same, just some of the way that we put fire and ambulance together, just to make it more.
And the extras
So
for the
we'll go
audience?
from this.
Yeah.
And what is the account gonna be called?
Question from the
Just
old.
220?
230.
Thank
Or
you.
230?
Yep.
Okay.
Fire was 220, ambulance was 231. So.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, I see, it's right there. All I have to do is read
Can't
it.
take me anywhere. Thank you.
So just to make sure we're all on the same
We should
page,
put it back in the order that one.
as you go through your operating budget, why don't you just read out the total number that you have for each line,
Yes.
and then we can make sure we're working out the same stuff.
So I'm gonna read yours. I have this loaded, but I'll go off of yours.
Okay.
So, under wages, Fire Chief 109,395.20. Fire Inspector, $750. Permanent Firefighter, $70,200. In fire wages, so that's all call personnel, $191.25. For, oh yeah, there we go. This is where it gets different. Cadets, 19,372. So for a grand total 397.42.20.
Now, in previous years, we had wages dash clerical. Just remind me again what was included in that.
That was the interim fire chief's pay,
Oh, that's right.
or the firefighter stipend, fire chief stipend.
And so your stipend is actually,
It's gone. That's my
that's what
salary.
I thought, because I wrote it down, it showed up on this. And I wondered why. Right here, on this, salary history and budget request, the part 2, the fire chief stipend, 12,800, shows up on there. For fiscal year 2021, I was confused as to why.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's there. I just pulled a copy of that, and I didn't have that on my list.
See that? The notch down
It's
the
contractual. It's all the stuff in the contract.
So it's he still gets a stipend?
Well, it's what it is in the contract. I mean, there's different, call them stipends, call them, I don't know. There's a base salary and then there's other things in the contract
Yeah, I
that,
can explain that.
like education or, you know.
Yep.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So if I look at the yearly fiscal salary, 94,702 for 2021, requested, is that, it's different on what I just got. Am I looking at this right?
Yeah, and I think it's because this and that.
Together,
wrapped
and
up.
then add up to the same. Because here it is added up, 122,
What years did you
195.
have?
Add 2,300 to that.
So what, just walk us through the
Walk us through what you got and where you got it. I think it's probably.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't add up.
So this is treated as a base salary in my contract, but the base, 94,
Okay,
plus, educational incentive of 12.5, and then EMS stipend.
12,800.
12.
I have stipend of 12,800. You have 12,500?
Okay.
Different.
I think that, then Oscar, may I ask, did you add this? Because I didn't put, I just put the base right across.
I'll have to go look at my spreadsheet and see. Which I
That's
was-
where,
I'm trying to add it
yeah,
up to make it
that's where-
match, and I can't get it to match no matter
so
what I'm doing.
where it comes from, like I said, is the base plus an incentive for education plus my EMT or paramedic creates the 109.
109.
But I
I
don't have
don't
my
see it
contract
on
in front of me to
here.
give you that exact number.
The breakdown.
This has, your stipend is 12,800.
That's probably a combination of all, of various.
Right. And then the education was,
109,395, yeah, 12,800 plus the 96,595 is 109,395.
Yeah. that.
Yeah, I'm sure the 12,800 is a combination. I didn't break it all out.
But I thought you didn't say add 2,300 or something to it?
Well, there's a bunch of different ones.
There's a bunch of different ones, so
It-
12.8.
So combined
It's
equals
com-
12,800.
Oh, gotcha. That's
I
right.
I just didn't,
More
I
than
just
that
didn't
than fire
break them
chief.
all out.
Or it's different kinds of stipends.
No, that's just mine.
Okay, yours, all right. All right.
Okay.
Now it makes sense. Thank you so much.
So when we look at the wages dash firefighters line, the increase, at least on our version, from 174, 167 to 191,025. Can you say a little bit about why that's anticipated?
Absolutely. Over the past 3 years, those accounts have run negative. Last year being on the fire side was 10,000 and 4,000 on the EMS side. The year before, both were in the negative. They were balanced out, but that was the reason for the request for additional funding. We're seeing more calls and more people showing up, and they're collecting the salary.
What is the scheduling regime in place now for both firefighters and ambulance? Like, how does,
So we have very few that are, I hope this will explain it, that are scheduled. The ones we can assure as scheduled is the permanent firefighter, Monday through Friday. So anytime he is out on vacation or using a benefit, he's backfilled at that time. Anytime that the cadet program is down because the school is down, they are backfilled so we can maintain the ambulance. So to give you an example, because I was just adding up for the rest of the budget, I'm looking at an estimated 25 more days and I need to backfill one spot because the school is either on February vacation, April vacation, between the graduation and the summer helping starting. So those are what I'm figuring into that one account. On top of, did build some in just in case the contract was settled with the union,
okay,
just so I didn't have to come back to you at a large
You
amount.
don't have a number for
I
that, do
do
you?
not.
I just want to compare it to how much the EMT program cost us. I just would like to know, just.
What piece?
Well, I know that EMT program cost us, what, about 19,000?
Our portion of it is
372.
19,372.
Yeah, and I was just wondering how much more because of the backfill. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, because we have to backfill that position.
What they're not able to do, right?
Well, you gotta understand that our salaries are not, they're paying the instructors. The year 2, 3 instructors, the lead instructor, and the coordinators. So this line has nothing to do with the EMTs themselves. Is that,
What I was thinking was when you said backfill, so you have a week in February
Mhm.
where there are no kids,
Correct.
right? No matter if they're there or not, the program costs about 20 grand to run. Is that correct?
Our end of it,
your
yes.
end of it. And
The
that's
school
not
has another.
including covering that week with someone, a person. That's what the difference I wanted to know, what it takes to cover, that's all. When you need to backfill, just in salary or whatever extra, because that's not baked into any of these numbers, is it?
Yes.
Overtime?
Yeah, it's not overtime, it'd be straight time, because
Straight
we're
time.
not paying a full-time employee to cover those shifts. We're hiring in one of our call members. So the big change this year, under that wage of fire that has been put in there from years previous, you have the firefighter wages, the EMT wages, the full-time firefighter training wage, the line item used to be for the backfill. That's all buried in that one line item, because now we're one department, so it's one figure where this used to all be laid out for each individual side.
Okay, so it's hard
So
to
you've
figure.
consolidated cost centers and reshifted them somewhat in terms of the wages all in one place.
Correct.
Okay.
Because before, let's take the full-time permanent firefighter. Half of his salary was paid under fire, and half was paid under EMS, and both had an account for full-time. Now you're looking at one line. And then some of his additional figures are in there for overtime, for training, officer pay, is all in that figure.
So when I just compare, I guess we can talk about this when we get to the end, but like for the salaries line, the all in total, there's a pretty significant increase from FY20 to FY21. Would you expect that trend to slow next year?
With this, yes.
And can you just say a little bit more about why?
Because we were always making up in the back in the previous 3 years of varying different amounts. This is now representative of what should
What the
cover the
actual
year.
spend is?
Correct. For example, if you look at actual 19, what was budgeted was 105,367. We put out 118,926. And then ambulance was 60,000, they put out 67. So we were behind. This is an actual represent what we need.
Yeah, I can remember a number of advisory transfers.
Yeah.
To wages, so, you know, we're just representing the number now, so we don't necessarily have those.
Right.
My recollection from last year's budget is that the firefighter wages and such were kept level because the chief didn't have any experience and he was relatively new and wasn't able to predict. So it was held flat
Right,
basically for 2 years in a row.
Yep.
Which is magnifying the perceived increase this year.
right, right.
All right, do you want to keep moving down?
Sure, we'll go into expenses.
Yep.
So purchase of service is 15,100. Again, I know that looks like a big jump, but that is a combined account again. 15,100, 30,000 in ALS cost, $6,500 in coastal medical, electric 700, repairs 21,000. Training, 8,600. Supplies, 4,500. Operating supplies, 5,620. Gasoline, 5,100. Diesel, 6,000. Automotive, 2,000. Uniforms, 16,026, $16,026. Dues and memberships, $1,345. Fire ponds, 20,000. Recognition, 1,000. And equipment, 7,500.
Okay. So can you dissect some of these for us? Like let's just start back at the top at purchase of services. What is the additional, roughly $4,000 gonna be paying for
From the 1077 and 19 actual.
from the actual? Yeah,
Yeah, I just wanna, this one has it separated out for me,
Okay.
so I can say, oh, that one's combined, it's not.
It is because if you look at it separate, it's scary, $7,900.
well, it seems like that, are the actuals for purchase of service is kind of like anywhere between 10 and 16,000, so I just want to be reminded of what's included in there.
So purchase of service would be our annual host testing, ladder testing. On the EMS side, stretcher testing, the Lucas, which is the CPR machine, maintenance program for that, the stair chair. What else are we doing?
Now, do you guys do the SCBA testing in-house yourselves? Or?
Oh, we cannot. No, that's flow testing, so thank you for reminding me. That was one, the annual flow testing, and to keep up a air quality test for the SCBA fill station that was put in.
Okay.
So those would be the purchase of service items.
All right, so ALS services and coastal medical billing.
But we lost our ALS provider, didn't we?
We lost our closest ALS provider. We still require
I know.
advanced life support, so we have that fund, and we are using a multitude of companies that are out there right now as they are available. So that account does pay them at the set rate with our contracts. That, once we get into the second half hour, that will come more to light as we're looking at that.
So we'll come back to this, but just so that I understand, that $30,000 request for ALS services, you anticipate leaving the same? That's no change to that?
Right now, yes.
Okay. And coastal medical billing that's a yearly contract that you have, or
That is our billing company.
Yep.
We do have a contract with them. They receive 5% of everything they receive through billing.
okay.
So I do anticipate that if the ALS program is to be successful and go up, that you're probably going to see that go up a little bit that we're giving them.
Okay. The repairs request went up a little bit.
It did. We are actually on a good track right now. All the apparatus has had all its fluid changes, routine maintenance, tires. We've had some big expenses over the past year, and there's more to come. I know I'm going to have to buy a fleet of tires coming up. Most likely 2 sets this year. The ambulance was just done, but we'll be looking at engine 1 and possibly engine 2 for tires. Just to give, printed this out, under repairs past couple of years. To give you an example, engine 3, to get a valve replaced on the back, lights that weren't working to indicate how full the truck was. The tank itself was actually shifted off the body, so we got all that squared away. We were into that repair for over $5,000. So when you deal with the fire apparatus, the prices go up because it's certain certifications to work on these apparatus, especially when we're dealing with pumps.
Yeah, I'm confused again, because, okay, just keep going. It's just hard to go back and forth. I wanna make sure I'm following the trends and now combining them. I don't see, so, you combined the ambulance repairs,
Yes,
With the truck repairs.
correct,
Okay, so all the repairs in one line.
correct.
okay. So, I just looked at the budget for last year, just for fire, was what, the 18,675. It didn't include, there was no budget for 2020, 2021. Okay, all right,
I think it was rolled in last year too.
yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Is that what the black bars
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
so
thing,
that's,
that was rolled
so I
in?
can show you what
Yeah.
mine are red,
okay.
if that helps you a little bit
I-
more.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Thank
they
you
started
for
getting
indulging
combined
me.
last year and now they're fully
Gotcha.
integrated.
Okay. Thanks.
I didn't want to skip over anything, but is the gasoline increase just a product of the combination as well, or is that?
No, that is because the department has purchased a command vehicle, and prior to a command vehicle, there was no need for gasoline, so this is the first year
It's gas.
it's a gasoline truck. And we've been utilizing the Tahoe, because it needed to be run a little bit more. So we've been using that as well, so we're putting gas in that a little bit more too.
It is your estimate of 5,100, just based on the run rate so far for this year?
Yeah, some of it is estimated. I took what we were spending up until the time of this and tried to estimate out what it was going to be.
Uniforms, that's contractual. Remind me again, what is our policy in terms of supplying uniforms and what the town pays for?
So we do provide currently one complete uniform, which would be a uniform shirt, Class B, a polo shirt, a sweatshirt, belt, boots, pants, when they go off to the academy. If any of those items are damaged, they are replaced. $1,000, so I know that there's an increase, but $1,000 again is contractual to the fire chief and contractual, I guess it wouldn't be contractual agreement to the permanent firefighter. So this figure did not include the previous year, the $1,000 for the chief, so $1,000 went in there. That's why the number went up from 13.6, so we're at the 14.6, and the addition of $1,000 from EMS into fire, so it's 15.6. So that's the increase there.
Okay. I don't actually have the actual so far, but do you know how much we've spent on the fire pond project so far this year?
$558.
There we go.
That's how much has been spent so far?
Since June.
So do you do the bulk
It's
of that
usually at
work
the end.
at the very end?
Mhm.
Okay. And you have a plan you anticipate using the full 20 grand?
Well,
Okay.
haven't been before.
So do we need the request to be 20 grand?
Yeah.
If we want to do a pond, yes. I use it for maintenance of the ponds. We want to do the pond at Water Aquatic. Right now I'm waiting on a grant to see if we're going to get some money back, because the estimate is $21,000, so I'm hoping to get some
That's for one pond.
for one pond. So that's why there's so much still in there, because I'm waiting to see if we get the grant from the DCR, because we can't do it currently.
That's a complete job on the pond.
Correct. That would be digging it out. The trees were already cut, replacing fencing, putting in a dry hydrant, making sure that all debris is removed from that pond.
So that pond is gonna be done next year. Like, you basically wanna have $20,000 in case you don't get the grant, so then we can.
Well, the grant's only gonna cover $2,000.
Oh, okay, it's only,
Yes, I should have clarified that.
Okay. So,
But it's $2,000.
Yeah. How many ponds do we have then?
There are varying different levels of going through them, about 15.
So will that be $40,000 about you'll have next year to do a pond? Because you've only used 500 so far of 2020's budget, and 2021's gonna put 20,000 more in it.
right,
So is that right? 40,
Yeah, I could start the project this fiscal year and end it next fiscal year if I needed to, yes.
now only do one pond? Just a thought, we just said 20,000 would be,
No.
could you do two ponds?
No, I was answering in, yes, most likely that could be 2 ponds,
Do two ponds.
but to your point, yes, you could start a project if it's more than $20,000,
And have it go over 2 fiscal years.
correct.
Right.
so you said there, go ahead.
Historically, when I used to manage the procurement for Chief Menser before Chief Legendre was here, I would say the average pond was $17,000 or $18,000.
And is,
That's helpful.
and is the historical practice just to basically budget for one pond a year, roughly?
The practice was one pond a year. If we had an invoice for a pond, as you know, we could encumber funds into the next year. We couldn't carry funds over if we didn't have a way to encumber it. But if we could start the work, then we could retain the funds going into next year. But it wouldn't be, $40,000 to be used in FY21. It would be $20,000 to start the project this year, and then whatever work would be done next year.
Okay.
And I'm assuming you usually do those when the weather isn't frozen solid.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Usually once the
So
weather
it's
breaks.
over the July,
That's right.
spring, summer.
Normally it would be, right, either springtime or summertime, when it's, depending on the conditions.
Seasonal.
And like last year we did not do a new pond, we upgraded and revitalized the pump at the school, Emerson pump, the fire pump. So we can go fill off of that as well.
So how many more ponds, and we went over this last year, how many more ponds
It's just
need to work like
It's
this?
continual because you have all the sediment that settles, then you gotta go in, clean them out. If they don't have a dry hydrant, you gotta put one in, so it's a continual process.
Oh, I thought these were neglected and.
No, they're not,
Badly
yeah,
neglected.
no,
So that's just to, gotcha.
no.
Wow.
I think the history was, this fire pond thing was not done, and then 8 years ago, advisory did start wanting to do it at one pond per year, but it's gonna take 15 to 18 years just to go through all the ponds once.
Right.
And then it's the Golden Gate Bridge analogy, once you're done, you're back at the beginning
You're
again.
back.
Yeah, and then, then it's been 20 years since the pond was maintained, and you gotta go start that all over again.
There could be some that are not as in-depth that we can go in and vac them and we'll be fine. But we have to look at the priority list of where they are in town as to where they service. What's the population being served? What type of buildings are in the area? So it's a constant eval from priority listing.
Because I was thinking if they weren't done in all those years and they're finally getting done, the one you did last year, if you could maintain it, it wouldn't cost $20,000, but there's no way you can maintain it while you're working on getting ones that have never been done. Is that right?
That would be accurate. Yeah, we could maintain them. The system that I've been saying, you go in, you vac it,
Yeah.
make sure everything's clean, but now you're not gonna create a new pond somewhere because you're rapidly doing that.
Gotcha.
So we're about a half hour in. I'd like to shift gears soon to the ALS proposal. Do other folks have questions about the operational budget? Anyone in the audience or?
I'm good.
We can come back to them too, if anything occurs to you along the way. But why don't we move into your proposal?
you.
Trying to get you ready for this.
Right, I got it.
Print it off now. Okay. So as stated a couple minutes ago, to bring you to where we are, some of this I'm going to breeze over and some of it we're going to go into. But we're looking to start a paramedic program or ALS, Advanced Life Support Program here in Bolton. As you may know, on December 5th, we were notified at 6 p.m. at night that our local provider, Woods Ambulance, decided to reallocate their resource of Woods 700 back up to Gardner. We did have an agreement with them, but it was not a binding agreement. So Sunday the 8th, they moved out. We did rearrange our run cards, so the dispatch center knew, dependent on the 3 fire districts that Bolton is broken down to, which order to call paramedics, or another ambulance. This is all pre-planned and done. So there was a little bit of shifting, so we were good. We weren't uncovered at any point. After meeting with Chief Hansen in Lancaster, the ambulance director in Harvard, we did meet with a couple of vendors to see if they would like private companies to come in and service the area. We were getting some astronomical numbers for what they call a fly car, which is basically let's call it the Chevy Tahoe that we have at the fire station with 1 to 2 paramedics and full paramedic gear that would meet an ambulance on scene. It was even higher if we wanted to dedicate a Class 1 ambulance, which is the ambulance that is sitting over at the fire station right now, but to give you a picture of what a Class A ambulance is. It's a transport. So what we're talking about is a non-transport delivery of paramedic service. Through your packet, the next one, if you're not familiar with the different levels within emergency medical services pre-hospitally, they kind of give you a little overview of class time, what each one can do. Basically, we are looking to deliver a paramedic to your house, to a business that can provide advanced care such as cardiac medication, monitoring, advanced airways, a multitude of medications for many different medical problems. That will give you a breakdown of the two. What we are proposing is what they call a 2-tier EMS system. A single tier would be if just the ambulance responded by itself, did not need ALS, did not need a separate ALS responder. And the 2-tier is you're providing 2 resources. This example would be what we currently do for motor vehicle accidents, the fire department and EMS. So it's really not out of the realm of what we're doing. We, again, are going to utilize the Class 5 ambulance, the Tahoe, with 1 paramedic. The next bunch of pages is the first document that was put together. I won't bore you with a lot of the details. They'll be highlighted throughout, but it gives you the background as to why we ended up at this place. We are not the first organization to do this study. This was attempted as a regional system with some guidance from the Central Mass, in Bolton, Berlin, and Lancaster at that point, which seemed to be the location that a paramedic truck needed to come up to service the area because of the lack of paramedicine in the area. So taking some of that data, we move into our ambulance rates, our initial ALS cost. Looking at the equipment would be that of the cardiac monitor, all the IV catheters, medications, the medication boxes, bags, etc. for $54,000. An additional $5,000 to outfit the vehicle properly with lighting and markings. Replacement equipment, that would be a 1-year estimate to replace all of our disposable equipment that we use. IV, drug replacement, so on and so forth. The staff, I played around with the 24/7, 365, in a 12-hour day, 7-day a week, 365, for a total of 281, sorry, and 173. Move forward. So next was to look at our billing rates. So this was a survey done of area towns. The last time Bolton had changed our rates was November of 2016. Looking and talking with the area departments, they seem to change them, or been advised to change them more frequently than that. So I had suggested changing our collection rates to reflect more of our neighboring communities. If you look at, I'll pick one, Hubbardston. That would be this sheet here for everybody.
What is this page numbers on these? I'm
There isn't.
completely lost. I confess.
I should number them, that will be on my next thing.
Good.
Like I
The
said,
computer
this
will
is-
do it automatically.
This is well, this is all
Yeah.
pieces that, through this
Yeah.
whole process, I've been putting together.
Yeah.
So it's a living article.
Why am I not finding it?
There it
Oh,
is.
there it is.
There it is. There's two types of billing models. If we look at Hubbardston, for example, or West Boylston, you'll say included in base rate. It's what they call a bundle bill. So no matter what procedures are done in the ambulance, that is the flat rate bill for the patient that is transported. Conversely, if you look at Northborough, there's oxygen, airways, IV therapy, so on and so forth. It's a la carte. Talking with Coastal Billing and again other chiefs in the area, there's a better and cleaner collection rate with the bundle that they're seeing. Most of them have been doing it 5+ years. Just a flat rate, nothing gets missed. You are transported. It includes all of the items that are using a la carte. So we've changed the rates effective February 1st. I'll just read those for you.
So 5 of 20 towns use the bundle, that's it? That I'm seeing here, right?
Some of these have changed. This is a 2018.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it's Paxton, Rutland, Townsend, West Boylston, Hubbardston, and I know there are a couple more that are going to it. I don't want to say who they are because they haven't officially done it yet. So the new rates. ALS 1 is $1,762. ALS 2 is $3,070 and $30 a mile.
Say those again? 17 and 20.
$1,792 for ALS 1. $3,070 for ALS 2 and $30 a mile.
And how does that compare with the current rates?
I'm kind of looking for my, right, I need page numbers.
I'm happy that that was way in the beginning, so.
Yeah. I think I'm actually missing that out of my packet.
Is it this page?
No, it's in there too. I'll go back to that one.
This page.
So our base rate, right now is 731, ALS is 868, and 1250 for ALS 2.
That was that page. So that
There was
was,
that one.
yeah, it was the fourth page, fifth page here or so. Yeah, you got it.
That one?
And the BLS would move from that 731 to 1385. I left that one out.
I just have a question about collections.
Mhm.
So, you said the new rates are gonna be taking effect February 1st,
Correct.
and what is your anticipated collection rate for like, how, of the charges that you're putting out there for these services, you're expecting to, obviously not
I'm
to recoup
expecting-
100%, but
Correct. So if you break down what they're collecting, on average, it's about 50% of what they bill out. When I say that, what they bill out is the full bill. And if you have Medicare or Medicaid or Mass Health, those rates are set. They're set at a much lower rate. So that is inclusive of those that don't pay, the Medicare rate. So what we bill out, we receive 50% about, with everything included.
So I guess what my question was gonna be is, these proposed rates seem like a significant jump from what has been charged.
Mhm.
So, will you be kind of monitoring and letting either the town administrator or somebody know if your collections are significantly lower than the 50% you're expecting? Like, I'm just wondering if, hopefully the market will respond to these rates and you'll get the 50% you're anticipating, but I'm wondering if maybe some people will balk and not give you.
If they're balking at me, they're balking at everybody on this list. The reason I say that is where the rates I've put in, we're still not ahead of that list that you have. And those people have changed from that to go higher,
And they're getting about 50% too.
give or take.
Yeah. Okay.
Because yes, it is a big jump, but it hasn't been touched in 4 years.
I kind of sidetracked you, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that parlay, so I know to describe each, I think I should go into what each level is so everybody understands. Your BLS rate, most likely is going to be your highest number of transports that your basic life support. Somebody may need oxygen, somebody may need splinting, so on and so forth. Our ALS 1 would be a majority of our ALS calls. Somebody with chest pain, we're going to start an IV, administer aspirin, nitroglycerin, EKG. That is your run-of-the-mill. To move and why the numbers based on the ALS estimated returns sheet. I know it's a little further back, highly colored. 10 transport at the ALS 2. There are a multitude of things that need to happen to move it into that ALS 2 level. An advanced airway needs to be placed. More than
What is that?
advanced airway.
Oh, airway, sorry.
Endotracheal tube placed. A defibrillation needs to take place. More than 2 medications through the IV. Basically, we're talking about like a cardiac arrest.
Saving somebody.
So you're using a multitude of skills. So that's why that number is so low. There are very few that make that threshold to the ALS2 level.
But every time the fly car goes out, every time the ALS fly car goes out, it has the stuff on board to be able to provide either 1 or 2.
Yes,
Yeah. And then it's just a matter of like what happens.
correct. The skills that are used on each call. So what this does afford us to do is now billed for our services. Talking with Lancaster, Harvard, they gave me an average of what their request is for paramedic service. Harvard was roughly 140 calls a year, and Lancaster was 287 calls a year. I pulled that number down to 200 for Lancaster. We can't service the other 87, and 105 for Harvard, with our charging $325 straight to Lancaster via invoice per patient, as we do now with Woods Ambulance or our other providers. We're looking to bring in $99,125 a year.
So how many patients would have to throw this off? I mean, if 2, 3, 4 called at one time, I'm just kind of wondering, do you have enough manpower? I mean, God forbid that you don't have the coverage.
We don't have it now.
We don't have it now, so. That's,
It can happen just in our own town.
Yeah.
We have one ambulance.
right.
We have a second ambulance call.
Have to
We have to call mutual aid.
mutual aid.
The good thing with the paramedic in the fly car, say they went out to that first call in Bolton and they determined it to be a BLS patient. They returned to the station, they were available for that second call. That's why I like the model of the fly car, because it allows more maneuverability. They're not with a BLS patient all the way to the hospital when a second call comes in for a cardiac arrest.
That answered my question better than I asked
Yep.
it. Thank you.
So, but it could happen, and it has happened now. We have other resources available. If the fly car went to Lancaster for a call and then we had one, we would then call our ALS provider that's next up. And that happens daily around the area. Most are staffing one ALS unit. There are some towns that staff more than that, but there is a mutual aid system, even in the city of Marlborough and Hudson. Each one has one ALS truck, and when one goes out, the other one will go cover the second, so this is not unheard of.
Now, would you be bringing in a dedicated EMT? Would you be training existing staff to get certification?
I would love to tell you that we can bring in staff to train them, but we're looking probably at $8,000 a person. So for the time being, we currently have 5 certified paramedics on staff. We have an additional 2 town residents that once they found out we're doing in-on transport are going to be joining, and I do anticipate hiring per diem paramedics into the program.
So they are EMT. They can do all.
Paramedic, yep. Yep. So that is inclusive of myself. We do have one doctor who's also a paramedic, and one flight nurse who's also a paramedic. So we have very experienced staff right now. When I say I'm going to cover 12 hours, I'm still working on, do I bring them in at 7? Do I bring them at 6? I'm looking at trending of calls. The busy time, it appears right now, is between 9 and 2. It drops rapidly after midnight until that point, but daytime hours are our busy time. So I'd probably be bringing them in, say, 6 to 6, 7 to 7, and that's not to say after hours with the members that live in the community or a training night. We have one of the paramedics in training. They can take the car and go.
I have a question, and I'm glad we have some selectmen and our town administrator in the room, because it's more of a question about when these services are kind of going online, because obviously you have a request included in the fiscal 21 budget, but it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you might try to get this up and running before.
The closest this is going to happen is July 1,
Okay.
2020.
All right.
And that's talking with the state, and that's getting ahead of the ball with agreements as we move through here. Paperwork needs to be done equipment needs to be purchased, and then they come in and inspect the vehicle, the equipment, the policies, and talking with the state. It sounds like July 1 would be most likely the earliest we could start. But from town meeting,
But you still have to equip the car and all that's,
Mhm.
right? So.
so my
money-
plan would be with town meeting, it gets voted through, I start purchasing the equipment, get it all, the truck all set up.
Right,
We go
But-
through inspections in June, we're ready to go July 1.
Now, are there any steps you're gonna be taking before town meeting, sort of contingent on approval, or?
Oh, yes, yeah, I can. So the first step was we needed a letter of support from the select board for this program. We were very lucky and fortunate, they did sign the letter, so that was step one for the state.
That was last week.
That was last week. The next step is we need to put in for our controlled substance license through the state and the DEA. I'm taking a step with our medical control doctor in the facility, Mass Medical, to get an agreement with them, because that needs to be submitted with that and then submitted to the state with a fee. And then once that is received, go online with DEA, go for that license. So that paperwork is done. We needed to have a drug security policy. That was finished today, so that's in there. Nice 4 pages of how we're gonna lock stuff up. So all of this paperwork is getting done ahead of time, so we can get this up as quick as possible, and that is looking like July 1.
So I have a quick, bottom line question, just in looking at the first page. So you're saying for fiscal year 21, estimated $177,000, that includes soup to nuts, everything with personnel and your staff,
Yep,
et cetera?
so that's in your packet, I'll just go over it.
Oh, okay.
54 for equipment, 5 for the vehicle, 600 for supplies, 109.5 for salary. Our ALS license for the upgrade, 600. Controlled substance license, 300. Uniforms, figure around 3,000.
And then when you say the billing that comes back in, that would offset this total, so it's,
I'm anticipating,
it just rolls into free cash?
The ambulance receipts reserved account, correct?
So if I did the math right, we're talking 200 calls in Bolton, and if we're doing that throughout all these proportions of Lancaster and Harvard,
Mhm.
And fill out a 2,000 fee, so it's less than that after you take off 50% of people who don't pay, those decreased payments, whatever, you're still ahead by 100% of your budget, or not quite, but
so if, in this, this sheet right here, from our 19 numbers with our new billing fee cycle, 106 BLS transports for $142,655, 80 transports ALS 1, $83,680, ALS 2, 10 transports, $16,850, mileage $58,800, and mutual aid $99,125, for a total of $401,110. Taking our coastal fee estimated to be at $15,000. We're a sum of $386,010. Our first year cost $177,000. We have a remainder of $59,696.75. If my numbers are correct.
so can we start in March?
If there is a way to get me the equipment by
And the
then.
state has to move along too.
Correct, yes. So I think July is gonna be where we are.
And the 177, you're proposing that come from ambulance receipts reserved?
Correct. Yeah, putting off the purchase, this year was supposed to be the replacement of 7A. I think we can put it off for a year, get this up and going, replenish the funds. Because I checked off grants, because the AFG, Assistance to Firefighter grant did open, it'll open Monday. I plan to go for personal protective equipment again, and this year we can apply for one in each category. So I plan on going for a new fly car and a cardiac monitor, which would then drop that even further. It's highly competitive. We'll see if we get it. I think it's a worthwhile to put in and then offset that even further, and we'll show.
How on board are Harvard and Lancaster?
My first priority is this town.
Okay.
I want to answer that, but I want to be very clear. I want to provide this to our citizens first. They are very on board. We just met as chiefs today, and there was an update given as to our process, and they are both waiting, hoping it was still on March as well.
You had mentioned a number like 325. What number is that? Is that cost per call going to Lancaster or?
Correct. So the way the current system works, when an ALS provider, paramedic service comes in to Bolton, that ALS account that you saw in the beginning, they invoice us at the contractual price, and then we pay directly. So it doesn't go into the insurance. That comes right from that account. Lancaster and Harvard both have those same accounts, so I plan on doing that, so we don't have to wait for a billing company. Here's your invoice,
Okay.
pay it per person.
Does anyone else have questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make a similar comment that I made at the Selectmen's meeting last Thursday, that advisory knows well the investment that was made in getting a full-time fire chief and transitioning from a part-time position. If we didn't have a full-time fire chief on board, we would not have the resources available to even pursue something like this. So this is a really unanticipated benefit of having a full-time chief, is that we can go off and, he can go off and pursue opportunities like this, which are a huge benefit to the town. So I know advisory, as well as the selectmen, had supported migrating to a full-time fire chief, and you're seeing one of the benefits of it.
I noticed actually that one of your requests for information went out like December 6th, which was the day after you got the call, so you were right on this, which is great. Just a note on timing, and I'm open to other people's views, but I know we're going to be considering all of the capital requests later on with our town administrator, but I don't see any reason why we can't vote on this request tonight, along with your operational budget, because I think the nature of this request is it's different than a normal capital sort of a thing. And I also think that if there's some support, it's better for us to signal that to you sooner rather than later.
I think this is a great win for the town, and to Steve's point, it's gonna be initially to serve Bolton residents, but that doesn't preclude in the future, if there are opportunities to expand this, I think, we'll look at that. But I think, the chief really wants to get this running well for Bolton. But, I mean, we're gonna make our money back and then some within the first year. And then, if things go well, this could be a very nice service, as well as, a little additional source of revenue for the town as well. So I'm fully on board with it.
Yeah, I look at it as icing on the cake.
Yep.
Entertain a motion.
Yeah, well, let's go back for a second to the operational budget. So for a total of 541,733 is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then, I actually don't have is it 177?
177.
All right, so, and for a total of $177,000 for FY '21 to get the ALS proposal up and running, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Yeah.
I'll take
All
it.
right,
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you. And if you have a chance to review that and have any questions, please reach out. Okay, thank you.
Alright. We're a couple minutes late, but we're ready whenever you want.
I'm in no rush. How much time have I got?
So, should we start with 439?
Whatever you wish.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay,
Mind to hear?
Pardon me?
Got it.
And by the way, have you met Jess yet?
No,
Chris
Rogers, pulled one out.
Well, no, I'm just realizing, I'm gonna ask him to explain what these things are.
Oh, God, they didn't tell me that. They just put this in my hand and sent me out of the meeting. I can do that. So do you want me to roll into 439 landfill?
Yeah.
Okay, so the backstory for those of you who don't know it, the town capped the landfill a number of years ago, and part of the whole process to that capping was that we monitor the wells, or we monitor the site. So annually, we were required to do testing, make sure that there's no, nothing kind of leaving the property, and so this is a budget number you're gonna see annually in there for that testing. So,
I thought there was slowing or stopping that along.
which is all basically up to DEP, and we have not heard back on whether or not we do that. I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, there'll be a point in time where it can stop altogether, you know, after X number of years, but they have not really signaled one way or the other to us whether we can reduce it or even contemplate dropping it, so.
How many years have we been doing this now?
I mean, 15 at least, maybe 12. I've been in the board 20 years, and so 20 years, I mean, it's been ongoing.
I thought some of the monitoring wells were running dry or unusable at this point.
So every year we have Joel Frisch from, I think it's Northeast and Clinton come out, and somehow he, you know, does some sort of voodoo, gets the testing he needs, gets it in, you know, DEP reviews.
Is that the gentleman who came last year to our meeting?
It may have been, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually, so it's also a process that's kind of ebbed and flowed. So we in years past, we've done more testing than required. You know, now our board feels as though that everything has come back so well that we're actually kind of defaulting now to the baseline, and you know, plan on continuing to do that. So.
I have a question. Is there somebody who follows up with DEP to see when we can get rid of this?
I'm sorry, ask the question again?
There must be some regulation somewhere that it's clean for so many years you could stop.
You would think, but there's no guarantee to that, because again, you don't want to be in a situation which you find out after 5 years of not testing that well has been tainted and they're drinking, you know, contaminated
Do
water.
you just do it forever then?
No, I think there's a theoretical end date. I just don't happen to know what that is off the top of my head, but it's a long time. And so your question was, is there somebody at DEP who's?
I didn't know if Board of Health should be contacting DEP and just kind of asking, hey,
We do.
Okay.
We do. Not every week, but, you know.
Like annually.
I mean, annually, around the time that testing goes in,
Right.
you know, we ask, and usually it's met with silence, so.
So it looks like we've always been under the $6,100 request, at least for the past few years.
Yep. Likely, there's a small bump there just because we may have to do some well maintenance. I believe that's may have been what Joel was pushing at last year, was that there, you know, the wells that are problematic are a little bit more work now and may need to have some work done to them, so. And really, end of the day, if we, you know, we spend, you know, what we spend and what we don't spend, we send back. You know, there's, on this particular line item, it's just to get what we need out of it to satisfy the state.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. 510.
So, our wages are actually going down this year.
which is nice. Our
So I
budget
don't-
as a rule is.
One we have doesn't look like that.
What happened?
So I've got budgeted for 2020, 35,631. And
Oh,
our
you
request,
probably don't have the COLA.
our request,
Oh,
our, the COLA's not in here?
36.
It's in ours, but it's not in yours.
It's not in mine.
Is there,
I'm being given bad data.
where you got?
Jeez.
Okay,
She built the code.
all right, that's fine.
Being married to the account doesn't help at all. does it?
Well, I was
That could be an advantage, but
kind of informed in traffic today that I was gonna be here, and then, oh, by the way, I emailed it to you, so make sure you print it and bring it to the meeting with you. Okay.
clear instructions.
Okay, thank you for that. So here I was thinking that our budget was actually going down, and I've been sandbagged
Well, that's all right.
by my own wife. All right, well, so, I mean, wages, again, what to say, I mean, we've got two people, we've got our assistant, and then,
Oh, yeah, so who is, that's not Jenny anymore. is it?
no, Kristen Zena.
Oh, okay.
So she's with us, and then we've had, we've got Phyllis, who we've had for, again, the 20 years that I've been here, as our animal inspector.
And the Neshoba Boards of Health, is that, are you in the middle of a contract with like a certain percentage increase each year?
So we're expecting a 5% increase, which is what that budget number represents. But yeah, they have not fixed the fees yet, but I understand they will be doing so shortly.
Okay, so, I guess you can let the notch get know if that number changes.
Okay,
But that.
It
that's-
typically is
it's
at 5%.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Any other questions?
Everyone familiar with the Neshoba Associate Board of Health, what we're buying, the services we're buying? Okay. It's money well spent, in my opinion. Advertising, it really,
I'm way ahead of you, I'm sorry.
okay, supplies, supplies are, in our budget, represent the mosquito dunks. So that may be, depending upon what happens with the central, now we've got a mosquito committee, and likely that the Central Mass Mosquito will be brought back to the town again this year. So if we end up actually signing on board with this particular program, that particular line item will likely get dropped out or turned back over to the general fund, because it's, again, it's for mosquito dunks. Again.
She's gonna sandbag you again.
Oh, no.
I have a question.
Oh,
So the mosquito, where does that stand? Is it too early to talk in public about what's happening with the
With the
mosquito
subcommittee.
control? Or, like, do you have a number for advisory yet?
I have no idea. It's really, it's separate from the Board of Health.
Oh.
I think mandated by the selectmen,
Oh, okay.
not mandated, but I guess they report to you guys, not to us.
So you don't have a number yet, do
No,
you? Okay.
well,
no.
a number meaning you think they're gonna have a request?
Yeah,
Yes.
Not, so I'm like dreaming if I think that the state is gonna be giving out pots of money for communities to deal with
Well,
this issue.
what,
Oh,
5 years ago,
wow.
it was 40 grand, so
Right.
I can't imagine it's cheaper than 50.
So going back many, many years ago, the Board of Health at the time was the sponsor to the first effort to join this program. And it failed. But we're still concerned enough about mosquitoes at the time, and it wasn't Triple E, it was primarily West Nile that was around. Thought that a good proactive measure was to put mosquito dunks, which is the larvicide, into the catch basins, which the town has. I don't recall how many, but it's a lot. Which are typically in the summertime just big, kind of under the road buckets of water, still water that we're breeding mosquitoes.
Great, they fly out.
Exactly. So we started this that many years ago and have always carried that line item in the budget, and under supplies, DPW are the ones who distribute them. And, but like I said, that, not a significant amount of money, but if we do become a member of this program, then we would have no need for that any longer, because they would carry that.
Right, but then that that might be a bigger chunk of requests that would come through by an article from the Board of
It would
Selectmen.
have to for this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. You wanted to ask about travel?
I did. So what happened last year? You didn't go anywhere?
No, we're a pretty, we're pretty, frankly, I'm not sure what the travel is.
I would imagine it's for training, if you had a meeting to go to or something, mileage.
But to
what I
Connie's
would
point,
guess.
we had budget, our budget, for 2019, we had $151. And
No, that's what you actually spent.
Oh, it is, okay. And then we
Yeah,
spent
$831, yeah.
spent $831 in 2020? Oh, no, we're asking
No,
for
that you're
$831 in
in.
2021.
Right.
So you basically, given back to the town around about $600.
Okay.
I was just wondering, because you're, it's all over the place.
I can ask. Like I said, I sincerely have no idea what that would be.
It seems
I
like
think it's
every.
like
It might be,
budget
I mean,
is
again, I'm
wrong.
sure that, because there are a lot of nuanced things. I think we do give Phyllis mileage.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
that's true.
So that might be one part of it, that she's
That makes sense.
driving around a lot. That may impact
That's
that number.
exactly what it is.
So,
The entire line item, you think, is that?
Probably, makes
so
sense.
maybe what we can do is just see what our actuals are next year.
Right. Yeah, I just was curious. How,
And then dues and memberships are, I think that one line item is just a membership for the Massachusetts Associated Boards of Health.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve?
some of,
Second. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Great. And then the last one is 522.
Nursing, okay? And I don't have any notes on that, but my expectation is that, I do have notes on that.
That's also, is that a 5%? No, not 5%.
It is.
That's what I'm guessing too, because it's Neshoba Nursing as well. It's not, that they're directly associated with Neshoba Associates Boards of Health.
And the town nurse, she works a lot with the Council on Aging,
Mhm.
right? And then, how, for other people in town, do you know how they could access the nursing services? Is there like a process in place? Like, how do people, it's not the type of thing that I think your average citizen knows exists.
No, and not necessarily one that your average citizen would seek out. She's really, she's of an immense benefit to us because our board does kind of catch word of elderly couples or people in distress, and we've got Tamara to kind of spool out as soon as we hear something onto that, to that problem, assuming she doesn't know about it already.
Yeah.
But we do find out odd things, odd ways that, somebody will bring to our attention that someone hasn't had water for X number of days, and which, triggers a kind of a site inspection, which kind of brings something else to light. My expectation is that you can, I'm sure that there's an Neshoba nursing number that I don't personally have on me, but that you could certainly call and inquire. But they also are also a big part of the flu clinic as well. So, that's where you're going to see them.
Do you know, does do town employees get access to flu shots from their health insurance, or is there like a flu clinic every year at the town hall?
It's Neshoba Associated
Oh.
Boards of Health. They have it at Public Safety and the high school.
Oh, great. And is that open to town residents or town employees?
Yep. Anybody.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, and
we
you
got a
don't
lot
have
of-
to be from Bolton, you can anywhere.
That's great. I have no other questions about this one. Is there a motion to approve?
I so moved.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
How you doing?
Good, you?
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Got it long. It's a big one, it's a big one.
See you. Good to come all this way.
So basically, as you see, the budget pretty much is nothing more than just the regular salary increases that we would normally get
Excuse me.
for myself and my,
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
241.
241.
Thank you.
and outside of that, vehicle maintenance has stayed the same for several years. And and we get about $700 more than what it costs to drive around and kind of pay me.
Yep.
It's pretty much it. It
Now-
works. You know, it works.
The supplies, if I'm remembering,
Yep.
that's, you get access every year to an updated code, is that what that is? Or-
Yeah, we get different things, like supplies would be, well, if we need paper or something like that, you know, we could put some towards that. I don't know if Kristen does that, but I usually just take a little bit of paper from the general thing there. But we do have like different, for supplies, it would be the books and the periodicals that we get, the updates that we need to buy. It is the code books. In fact, they're coming up with a new code. Was supposed to take effect January 1st, but it's been pushed off. So I would think by June, we're gonna be into the new code books.
Okay.
Yep. Outside of that, as far as the training goes, we have $250 in there. For the past couple of years, I haven't been going, which costs probably about that, or maybe a little less. I haven't been going to the conference generally at UMass. That usually costs like, I think, $150 for the 3 days that we go. It used to be 4 days, they cut it back. I went down to Semboa this year, down to the South Shore, because as long as we go to the state things, we can get our credits.
Okay.
And I've been doing a lot of just back and forth, like to Springfield, doing like the 6-hour things and getting credit that way. Yeah, it's all, yeah, you have to have, you need 45 continuing education credits every 3 years. So I've been trying not to have to get tied up to go like 4 days in a row, like in the fall, like we used to do.
Right.
And I've been really kind of picking away at that as local as I can get it, which a lot of them are like Springfield and
Not super local.
no, Westboro. There's a ton of them in Westboro. So I've been collecting all my credits that way, and I'm really good for certification. So it's pretty cut and dry, really. It works. It's not much.
So why
I'm
we
a
put-
part-timer.
That's why we put you last, because we
Yeah.
didn't think it would be a super
Yeah,
long
no,
conversation.
yeah, there's really not much. Building department's doing well, all the departments are doing well, as you see in the revenue.
Yeah.
We have the new computer system, which it took a little bit of getting used to for some of us that have not used the computer as a regular means of inspecting and things, and it's working out fantastic. It really, I'll tell you, really, once you learn it, it's so helpful, so helpful.
Just one odd question.
Yep.
So you requested $1,000 for FY20 for your assistant inspector.
Mm-hmm.
And for 21, you requested $20.15 more for,
I think it's
I think it was a more
Okay.
accurate, like based on the
Based-
rate times an hour.
Oh,
Like I think
Yeah.
the
there is
1,000
an
was just a
hourly-
flat, so this was a more like just pick the hours that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so they
average
probably
hours times the
rounded it.
rate.
Kept it pretty much the same.
yeah, because the actual in 2018 was 673, and in 2019 was 403.
The reason that you see that differential is because I don't take much time off, you know, and really not too much on vacations. I don't really get any benefits other than when I work. I get my hourly pay. So outside of that, I only call in my assistant when I'm sick or if I'm not here, and most of the time I am here.
Yeah.
And but we have to always kind of rely on the fact that we need that in the budget because what if I got sick?
Yeah.
You know, and the town manager, Don, had just brought to my attention that, you know, Dave might not have the time that he currently has now. I'm gonna be talking to him about that, so we may be getting another assistant in time. So I do have to talk to Dave, but that's the first I heard of it was the other day, that he might be tied up with something that he may not have the time to do it. But again, it's not that much time, obviously,
Yeah.
but he might have other commitments, so I'll be
They
speaking to
may
him.
need enough backup, basically.
Somebody else would have to be appointed, not, right now, it sounds like we're gonna lean in that direction. I do have a couple of people in mind that are local people that the public knows that would be good for the people, you know. And that's pretty much it. Everything works. I'm happy. I like working here. Everybody's nice, and I just try to do the job. Okay?
Any other questions? All right, so is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Have a nice evening.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you.
Mike.
How you doing?
All right, so the only other things that we wanted to do tonight were to just review and approve minutes, and then if people had edits to the draft of the annual report. Bob, did you have anything that you wanted to, oh, you're upset? Okay. So. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Things are going very well. It's nice to watch.
Easy year.
Well,
So far an easy year,
Early days.
non-contentious.
Yeah.
All right, have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks. Poor Bob didn't know that we were meeting 15 minutes later, so he was in here when I walked in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe we should let him
It's on the website.
Oh, no sympathy from this one.
He's a close friend, it's okay. I was joking.
It's funny though, because I remembered to include Bolton Access TV on my email, but I just totally forgot.
Selectmen.
Yikes. So if those look good to you, for the ones that you were here for, I think you were here for all of them, right, Ann?
Yeah.
So you can just initial them.
Because we got them ahead of time.
And I think actually Jen saw your date corrections and made them.
Okay.
I certainly have no problems with it.
At least look at it.
I like how succinct they are. You've got everything you need in here.
They're on your email too.
I know. But I just have to, listen, I have the memory of a flea. I always check.
I was secretary of a nonprofit at the Cape for 2.5 years, and everybody was criticizing me because I put too much detail.
I like detail.
I was the secretary of the board of trustees for the University of Massachusetts. And believe me,
Details
I
needed.
got them to make one of a simple statement, make the statement and move on.
Oh,
Because it's all the stuff, the qualifying stuff that gets you into trouble. Because nobody can remember what it really meant.
And did anybody have any edits to this one?
Oh, I didn't read it because
I think there's only one copy. It's the draft of our annual report.
oh,
If we need more time for this, we can review it next week.
Yeah, we'll review it next time, just fine.
Do you want this copy?
Mail it to us, right?
Yeah, I emailed it.
it's upstairs. 8, right?
Is that the census?
Yeah.
They have a box right on the window.
Oh, great. Okay.
That's what I did last week.
Okay. I had it with me last week, totally.
I do it all the time.
Oh, those are separate, right?
They're separate.
Okay, good.
Those are good minutes.
All right, so is there a motion to adjourn?
Make them so move.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Night.